Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Mel. How are you?
Well, I'm looking forward to this tarot series and the card
Yeah,
that we're going to explore.
very much so. Our card is number 17 and it's the star. So if you've been listening to our podcasts, you'll know that the last card that we spoke about in the Major Arcana is the tower.
Hmm.
So now the star comes in for this renewed hope and faith, along with the sense that you feel truly blessed. It's kind of like the dust has cleared, right? You stand there and you realize how much you didn't need some of these things you once held on to so tightly.
Yeah.
So now you stand up renewed and you have faith in yourself and possibly a higher power, depending on the tower moment, right? You have a little more hope about the future and what it can hold, and the possibilities become a little more open for us. So let's see. Let's just get into some of the basics of the star card and then we'll kind of open it up from there. So the element you're working with is air. So think of the air element being we're receiving information, we are feeling a little more high. We feel that we can stand up a little taller. The ruling planet is Uranus. And so, as we know of Uranus, this is a very outlier type planet. This is a planet that we don't speak of a huge amount outside of jokes, of course. But when you're working with Uranus, you're working at the mystery. You're working at the higher realms, if you will, the things that you have to reach to get to seem to kind of open their doors up for open communication when the star card comes towards you. This is a feminine energy. This is very much you are standing in your own divine power and allowing things to come to you. And the zodiac sign of this is the Aquarius zodiac. So much like Uranus, it is very outlier energy. I'm an Aquarius moon, so I can relate quite a bit to this. It's like the little weirdo, right? We're like the little, we don't quite fit in with the groups, yet we are very humanitarian in the efforts of joining in society. So the star comes and it allows you to know how beautiful and wonderful your weird little self is, how much faith you should have in this level of understanding of who you are and why you're here. Okay, so there are some keywords I want to keep up to date, and those are going to be hope, faith, and purpose. And say you aren't quite ready to allow that tower moment to let go, and you're still holding on to a little bit. So then you'll be looking at the reversed meanings, and those would be lack of faith,
Mm.
despair, and disconnection. So disconnection being that you don't feel connected to your home, your environment, your friends, your religious spiritual beliefs. You're not feeling connected to those things. So we do have to keep that in mind following through the towers. Sometimes the tower falls very difficultly. It's hard to rummage through. The dust doesn't seem to be clearing. You were pretty sure that this was a lifelong tower, and now you're having to truly pick up the pieces and you're not quite ready to reach this upright star position, right?
Mm.
So you need to ask yourself, am I picking up my own flaws with excessive harshness? Am I guilting myself? Am I shaming myself for the way things eventually fell down, the way the tower crumbled? Or am I taking these pieces and deciding that I want to stand back up and have more of an energy of out with the old and in with the new, and allowing yourself to move forward? It's okay if you're stuck in a reverse star. Sometimes the star card comes to tell us that we are important and we're just not ready to see that, because we're still looking at the things we had to sacrifice and we're still looking at the things that we had to let go of. But when the star card does come your way, it is really time for you to acknowledge how wonderful you are, how a star in your own life you are, how everything that is unique about you, i.e., weird about you, are the things that you need to hold the dearest to you.
As you were talking about these, the other side of the star,
Mm-hmm.
it sort of reminded me of phrases like crisis of faith, crisis of confidence, hopelessness. So that philosophical idea of
Yeah.
meaninglessness and hopelessness. And they're the
Yeah.
kind of undercurrents of what people experience when, whether it's a lack of faith or they just feel disconnected. And they've certainly been talking about that a lot of the people in the last few years, some people had inspiration, ideas, wonderment, and acted on those, as the star in its right position activates all the five senses, and you channel in the divine inspiration
Mm.
and ideas and magic. And there were other people who went into that crisis of faith because of whatever the world looks like to them, and they disconnected and they had to work through, as a lot of people understanding in all communities, psychology and spirituality, through the shadow self. So if that shadow self is weighing you down, as they talk about in the gene keys, you know, the
Yeah.
shadow self is the bit that we need to really look at and experience. And it's not discarding and cutting off or pushing down, which if we do that too much, we can end up feeling depressed,
Yeah.
or we can end up feeling anxious because it comes up and we don't quite know what to do with it. And so that's again, it's a natural part of the cycle, and you can remain there for a while. And I guess as I was listening to you and I was hearing both sides of what happens if you know, if it's upright, and what happens if it's reversed and you have these almost polar experiences, is often the mindset, isn't it? And this is what we
Yeah.
talked about in every podcast, is how do we view what we've experienced? What language have we given to that? Have we attached that to similar experiences we've had in the past that have been wrapped in some negative pattern and cycle? And if so, is that come up because it's our last need to recognize that and clear that, as we move like we do through the gene keys, out of the
Yeah.
shadow into the gift? And the
Right.
gift with the star is activating, because I was quite intrigued about actually the imagery of the card.
Oh
It's
yeah.
got the
Yeah.
7 stars that relate to the 7 chakras, which means when all your chakras are firing on all full cylinders and the senses are all firing on full cylinders, you get to a phase, as you and I have discussed over the last few weeks, where ideas and inspiration, everything comes from everywhere.
Yeah, it does too. If you really are taking on this, as Mel's describing the star with your chakras activated and a clearing that's just happened, you really do. You come in and you're in this pivotal moment where ideas, creative ventures, excitement for life start to really make form in your mind. They're not just these
Mm.
fleeting thoughts, they actually begin to form themselves. And that moment of can I starts to become a moment of I can.
Mm.
And so we go back to the beginning of that magician card, but you're no longer the magician, you are the star. You've learned all of the secrets of the trade and now you're here.
Yeah.
And you've allowed the sacrifices that need to happen, the letting go of the things that aren't serving you, be it through the higher power or through your own conscious decisions. And now you're standing upright and saying, I deserve this. And one of the things that I love that Mel brought up right before we started is I had mentioned that I'm going to stick to some of this, the reverse star this time, which is typically outside of what I do. I usually stick to the upright position, but I've also been in the position of the reverse star enough time where letting go was hard. And Mel brought up, well, isn't it just completely normal that you can both be happy and grieving at the same time? And so absolutely, right, of course. And so I started, I mentioned, the duality of this. And so the star card can come with this duality of being both happy that your life is taking this new turn and you're getting to be the star of your own show again. But at the same time, the grief of the losses that you've had, the sadness that can come up, the world is dual. You're going to feel both happiness and sadness. And I think we even had a podcast where we've talked about where I have been in this moment where I was just in this pure joy, but I also had this intense sadness laying underneath it because there's still so much, through the years of life, all of these things, they tend to add up, and there is so much sadness sometimes of things that have lost, things that you wish could have happened the way they did, but that seems to get outweighed by all of the good that came from the choice of the letting go of. And so it just takes time for your emotional body to catch up to this knowing that you already have logically and spiritually. So allow that space and time to heal those places that you're still feeling sad inside of, even though you've logically worked your way through. So the star card, as you were talking, the depiction on the original card is, this person is coming into this beautiful moonlight and there's these stars all around, and she's dipping into this flowing water, and she's replenishing, and she's dumping some of the water to feed the, to the grass, meaning that you're both in and out of this world. You're both in the flow and fully grounded. And you're really learning through the major arcana how to be both in the clouds, if you will, and fully planted on this ground with your root system intact. And the star card is really, I would say, the first time that you step out and say, holy crap, I have done some massive work on myself.
Yeah.
I'm patting myself on the back. I'm congratulating my storyline and the part I've played. And we've been bringing this up a lot in the divine comedy. The role that I'm taking is of strength and beauty, and I'm able to manage that now. Whereas in the past, you wouldn't have been able to do that. And through this journey, through the major arcana, the star card's the first one where you can really just look around and said, I've got my feet both firmly planted on the ground, and my ideas are reaching into the atmosphere somewhere to where I can really pick up on some collective consciousness and see what it is that there's needs, and what are those needs, and maybe I can fulfill one of those needs for society or for my family or for my job title or whatever it is. So
yeah, and I liked what you said about, I hadn't thought about it like that, where the magician has done all the work and mastered and done all the groundwork. And it was reminding me, we've both expanded in the last month or so, haven't we, in our ideas and what we're projecting maybe for the next few months in terms of the work that we're going to do together. And that moved from, didn't it, from
let's see,
I can through
these. Yeah. So this all started with you and I, Mel, around the Hanged Man. Obviously, we have been very much involved in this flow of the major arcana. It's part of this lesson plan, is that we too are flowing within these lessons. And so around the Hanged Man, where we had to stand still and take a look, around us, and then death comes right after that. And now you're turning water to wine with temperance. Now we're trying to figure out what it is. Now the devil comes to play. Is this are you locked to your ideals? Are you too materialistic? And then here comes the tower, and everything is different. And as we're awakening back to the star card, we can't minimize the work we did to get to it.
Yeah. And it shows us what was built on solid ground, doesn't it? Because you can't smash and pull apart what was solid. And if it's built on shaky foundations, or as some people say, ego, or you're doing it for the wrong reasons, only for and materialism isn't wrong, and capitalism either. But if you're doing it for the reasons aren't aligned now, and I think that's what we're seeing more and more, is people have to do things that are truly aligned with them. Then when you reach this point again, and I don't know about you, but I've been through this cycle a few times where I've reached a point, but I think the difference is now is when you've been through the cycle a few times, you learn the lessons along the way, you learn your strengths, you learn what you need to know more about, you find out what you don't know, and that's what you do when you're doing research, and then you culminate all that together. And then the hanged man aspect of that is being in patience, being patient, and wait, and not waiting for things to happen, but knowing on a higher level that the divine timing will operate when that time's to operate. And interestingly, I started to feel the stirrings just as we approached April, and yet all winter it felt dormant. I couldn't see anything sprouting from the soil. We were working on some things, but the moment that the spring came, going with the seasons, and the seeds have been planted, and now I'll start. So okay, which ones do you water? Because that's the other element of the star. You can have lots of ideas and lots of opportunities, and you can be grounded well within your own experience, insight, capabilities, but which ones are you going to water now? So how do you then decide, because you can end up with a garden full of flowers and a lot of gardening to do.
Well, I think what you're bringing up is something called the Seven of Cups. And that's in the cup suit, right? And in the Seven of Cups, you're spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
But there's also a downside to that, which is you become analysis paralysis and you're not sure what to choose. And everything seems like a great idea, which is why that's in one of the minor suits as opposed to the Major Arcana, where Major Arcana is all about the massive shifts you're making. These are the archetypes. These are the things that like really change who you are, as opposed to the these minor suits that come through to help you detail where you're at on it. But yeah, so again, what Mel was saying, I had a few tower moments during this Major Arcana that we've been doing. And of course it fell right around the tower that we did. And the things that I was building up without patience, the things I was building up without further consideration, without diving deeper, without taking a role that I should have taken in the first place, those fell. And it was like a house of cards because it fell and it was quick and there wasn't a lot of devastation. It was just like, clearly I built this on a house of cards, and I recognized that. And instead of shaming or guilting myself, I just said, okay, adjusting. Right. And in that moment, I also had this realization that I didn't have to do anything. Right. Like I'm already doing so much. And I became okay with that. And I moved myself into the star position again. And I was started creating this new future for myself. And then Mel steps forward and says, hey, by the way, I have this idea. And let me assure you guys, this is a killer idea that Mel's got. And we'll talk more about it. At the end of this podcast. And so she comes forward to me with this and a tower moment happens again. But this time there's really no devastation and there's no cards. It's just, I noticed a missing piece on my tower. And that piece is now going to get fulfilled. Right now that I know that there's not a tower moment with Mel and I, because we've worked through every tower moment, through every shift, through everything, through responsible conversation, communication, through understanding the depths of it. You and I didn't have those type of tower moments, right? And so our tower moments more came with what I would call a shift, right? Maybe a storm came through and a shutter's missing. Well, I put the shutter back on and it's good, right? Then that would have been the max of ours. And so when we stand back up as the star card again, this isn't our first rodeo. This is not the first time my tower has fallen. It's not, damn sure is not the first time your tower has fallen, right? So now we've learned these lessons. And now when the tower falls, it's we hold steady for the moment, but then we realize that inside of all of that rubble there are many lessons, and those lessons are shining like gold. And those are the things that we really need to be picking up. And those are the things that really bring us to the star Major Arcana card that we truly are deserving of. And for that, I can't express enough times that we don't have to be scared of things, that we can just go all in like a child. Mel has really worked with me on my inner child stuff. And what I've realized is the more curious you are like a child with a little bit more adult wisdom, the less silliness you're going to go into, the more research you'll do, the more acknowledgement you're going to do, the more confidence you're going to have, and allowing, because who doesn't want to be as confident as a toddler? Yeah, I love the confidence of toddlers. I just need to have a little adult wisdom behind that confidence. I'll still run around in my diapers and a t-shirt on my head, but maybe not outside. So because I know that I can't do that. My adult wisdom says so. But we do have to have faith in ourselves and in some form of a higher. I don't like the word higher power because it feels hierarchical, but it's not meant to be. When I say a higher power, I mean a power that can oversee more than you can, that has the higher perspective, that can look at a situation. We call it our higher self. It doesn't make that self any better. It just makes that self more aware. It has more of the eagle eye view. So when I say higher power, I just mean something with a higher view, something that's able to take the whole thing in and allow yourself to have faith in both of those. And that's really a question you should ask yourself, because that can go either way. Do you have faith or do you not have faith? One is the upright card. and one is the one in reversed. And neither one of them are wrong. It's just where you're at on your journey. So allow yourself to be honest and truthful. And then if it is in the I don't have faith in myself, now start that list of things that you need to do to provide faith in yourself, enough courage to believe in yourself. Mel and I've talked about this. We know it can start slow. It can start with affirmations. It can start with motivational, or inspirational videos, memes, conversations, therapy. There is a million ways for you to get yourself out of that rut and into the star card. It's just a matter of saying, I might not know what I deserve, but I know I don't deserve this guilt, this shame, this trauma. I don't deserve that. And that's enough to step you into a position to finding out what you do deserve.
Because part of going from can I to I can is the couple of things we've talked about on other podcasts, isn't it? Is when you start to do a review, but it's a realistic review. If you have a timeline and you write every job you've ever had, what aspects of that job did you really enjoy and why? What did you learn from that job? So what skills and strengths do you bring with you? So what goes into your toolbox? And then what aspects of that didn't you enjoy? And then how have you changed in each of those stages? And so when you gather all of that, you don't have to have blind faith. You have total faith in yourself that actually what I've got is a whole wealth of experiences and understanding. And I may not know where to put this yet, but what I can do is by holding that. We talk about gratitude. We talk about the power of language and internal dialogue. Is I can help people because I enjoy that. It might be that that's the job that you're going to do, or I love animals. I want to walk animals. And you don't have to go into the detail, but when you change your language and start thinking about all of the attributes, the review that you've done on yourself. And as Danielle said earlier, if there are moments where something's happened and you feel guilty or you feel angry, well, you're not meant to sit there, because then that's self-flagellation and slightly narcissistic on a really negative level,
and it's stagnation. Nobody, if you want to smell stinky like stagnant water, nobody wants stinky energy, right? It's true. But what you were saying, it actually reminded me of this. I don't watch TikToks, but I do watch Reels. I never downloaded TikTok. I already know I am weak. I will spend hours watching videos, so I won't download it. But there was this man on TikTok, and even though it does correlate, and he was talking. This woman's like, "Where do we find men?" And he said, "Guys, you don't find the men you want going to the bar, doing this. You find men that you want by going to the places that if you were dating that man and he had a boys' night out, where you would feel safe him being, where you would be okay with him going out with his boys. If you don't want a boyfriend that goes to the bar, why are you showing up at a bar? If you don't want a boyfriend that goes hunting, then why are you at the shooting range? If you don't, so start putting yourself into positions
that you love and that you want.
Yeah. So you have to start thinking along the lines of the things that bring you joy, bring you consistency, bring you peace, whatever it is that you're chasing in that moment. These are the things I want. So I'm going to start aligning my position to being in those spaces. And then that motivation naturally starts coming your way, that inspiration of better thought, that, okay, I am now, instead of surrounding myself with people who are so depressed and sad and negative speaking all the time, because it does rub off, I am now going to, maybe I don't have other friends, so maybe I go and see a therapist, or maybe I don't know how to make friends right now because I'm not sure what I'm worth. Well, there's YouTube videos everywhere about motivation, right? There's online courses everywhere about motivation. There's written word and blogs, vlogs. It is in books, everywhere. It's all about you deciding. You making a decision that, okay, this isn't working, but I don't know how to make it work. So I'm going to change scenery. And, we have this tendency to think that we're this massive adult and we have nothing in common with toddlers, but we have everything in common with toddlers. And the reality is what do you do with the toddler when they're throwing a fit? You redirect their attention. You move them into a new space. You do things that cause that part of whatever they're thinking to shift into something new. So
Yeah.
we become a toddler. Allow yourself to go back to that toddlerhood and say, I'm throwing a fit about this, so let's redirect my attention.
It's
And
really fascinating you say that, because I remember learning this in a true experiential way when I took myself off to Italy and France. Because what I realized, I was very stuck in a cycle of thinking that I was going through at the time. And we've talked about this before. I can tend to do that. It can be really positive and work for me, or it can be disastrous and not work for me.
Yeah.
And I was really stuck in that thinking. So I thought, right, I'm going to go away, but I wasn't going away for that reason. But while I was away, what I realized is all of those things that were dominating my thinking started to ebb away, because I was surrounded by lemon trees and olive groves and really nice food and the sea and new spaces and places, back to that curious child who was on an adventure exploring.
Yes.
And I immersed myself in all of this because it was a novelty factor every day. And I did it for a month, and they say 30 days to change your life. In research, it's 30 days, 60 days. Sometimes it's 3 months.
I think I read somewhere like 62 days or something. It's 21
days. The jury's
to
sort of out
retrain.
on, but it depends, because you can do it on one aspect or you can do it on a whole big thing. It just depends on all the other things we talk about, your astrology, your nature, everything. But that whole experience of going, because at the same time, my brain had to work hard because I didn't speak the language. So I had to find ways around something all the time. So I was totally focused on, how do I buy these apples in this fruit shop? How do I order the food? How do I get the train? And I remember being really anxious one day because I was going from Genoa to Rome, and I didn't know how to use, how to get a ticket in the train station,
and it's
things
a different
like
language,
that.
And it's very confusing, and the
whole thing is that collection of experiences, but basically your brain was absorbed in that. So what happens is the neural pathways, they don't call your attention to the same degree. They unlock, or they dissipate, they move away. The tough ones that remain are usually the deep ingrained patterns that we've generated in childhood. But that precisely that point. And so if you're in a funk, get up and move, most people are saying now, or move town and go away for the weekend, or go away on a longer trip and see what
you don't
happens.
even have to go to out of town. I get it. I have 6 kids, 3 animals. More than that until recently. I understand. But there's this word that I have stuck to for years, and it's called staycation.
Yeah.
One night in a hotel room will do wonders for your.
I did that when my kids were small.
You have to. And I even remember like needing a staycation, not being able to find a babysitter. So instead, I found a hotel with an indoor pool that was in my price range. And we went, and I just sat by the pool watching my kids play so hard that I knew they would be worn out early that night, and then I could just and do nothing. And it really, the mental health and well-being that is provided by just slight variations in your day-to-day schedule will be life-changing. It truly will. And for me, I'm a double air sign. I have to get my thoughts out. So Mel has become my person when those thoughts become, and when the other things, when changing scenery, doing this, writing, whatever, it's not working for me. I do the SOS to Mel, and I'll just have that conversation because Mel's going to give me, because again,
sometimes it's just verbalizing, isn't it? You just saying what's internal. Because what happens is you get space between the words, your brain moves that out the way, and you're open and receptive now, rather than being stuck in a mental cycle.
Stuck in that mental cycle. Yes, exactly. So, and the other thing I wanted to bring up was you had talked about the star card really is this moment where you could say, I want to be. Okay. So now you stand up and say, I want to be. Now here's something that got scary for me inside of the star card. And that was, if I decided, then that's that. And that's where I have to be. But the star card in no way, shape, or form tells you that this is what you're picking. And going back to the curious child, we are here to experiment. Right? We're here to, if you follow any form of nihilism, which is just the state of mind that says it does not matter, and then you get to decide if that's happy doesn't matter or the saddest thing ever doesn't matter, So say everything doesn't matter and you subscribe to nihilism, right? Okay, everything doesn't matter. Then why am I here? Oh, probably to explore. Probably just to go take some adventures, probably just to say, is this what I want to do with my life, right? Is this how I want to spend the next X amount of years in my world living? Well, maybe for 3 months it is. Maybe for 3 months, maybe for 3 years, maybe for 10 years. At some point, it's okay to say, this is not satiating me anymore. And you're allowed to start a new cycle, and you're not stuck in any one way with the star card. The star card is just here to say, you have so much potential, baby, you know? So.
The other thought I had, because this has been told to me a few times, and I've tried it, and I forget sometimes a lot of what I know, you know. But I remember when we were being taught on a neurolinguistic program how to focus on one thing for the week. So if you're in your day job, whatever that is, and you might not like that, and you're grumbling, and you don't like your colleagues, or you don't like the job, if you were doing a course of some sort, and say it was the NLP course, you could choose to decide, I'm going to see how many people smile this week. I'm going to see how many are happy this week. I'm going to see how many people are wearing yellow t-shirts.
I like that idea. It's like what is it? The Volkswagen Beetles, the slug bug thing. Like you keep your eyes open, and then all of a sudden,
and then see what comes
starts
in.
to happen.
Because the same process with the brain, in a way, starts to slip in, rather than focusing on what you're not happy about. Or you could, in NLP, you look at language. So you go, you know, how many people use kinesthetic language? I feel this about this. How many use auditory language? Does that ring a bell? Does that press your button? You know, kind of key phrases. Or you can, I had a colleague once who used to make up words and then use them in her patterns of language. You know, she was talking to people, and then she'd see how quickly it got round into the team meeting.
I do that too. That's so funny. I literally come up with the most off the wall statements, and then I just kind of wait and see if it starts getting brought into conversation. Yeah. I have one here's how you know it's ridiculous. I literally have one that says, did the Pope shit in the woods? Does the Pope shit in the woods? Why would anybody use that in speech? And now I have friends that use it, and they had and bought it. It's the best. But you know what Mel is saying is true. It is spot on. You know, guys, you want to move yourself into the star mentality. It starts with these little things. Nobody's telling you have to make big actions right away, but the smallest details used over a course of time are life-changing. They've changed my life. As fast as I like to move, and as quick as I do come through my cycles of change, the small changes to my mundane, the day-to-day existence of my life has been that has steered me into coming back to life, coming back into this environment. Because, you know, you close in, I was like a little flower, you know, I closed up for the day, and that was that. And then now that I've been reopened, you know, I think they use the butterfly the most, you know, now that I'm out of my cocoon and I have my wings and I'm back into this environment, you know, it's scary to, be the star, because you're used to this old way of life. And now that I'm coming out fully bloomed into this star that I know I am, of my own existence, right? I like to, you know, Mel and I like to do these, take a hindsight roll, call it the hindsight. I like to look back and see what steps took, right? And so I know that my steps were these little things, right, that started, and they would be silly. Like sometimes they seem counterintuitive. Like I stopped taking a shower every single day because I wasn't doing anything. And I felt like that was just something I didn't want to do. So I decided just to give myself the freedom. Well, guess what? You know what that made me do? Be very diligent about my showering. It had me be very diligent about my hygiene health. And now I have more time to do this because maybe I'm not taking a shower every day for something I haven't done. You know, if I laid in bed all day, because I stay at home with a lot of kids. And so not every day is me out and about, and allowing that to happen has then reversed what was this had to mentality. I have to.
So you're kind of talking, you're kind of talking about those beliefs that you shone a light on during the tower moments.
Yeah.
Because part of that, if people get stressed, depressed, anxious, can be the beliefs that they've got about how they should be, how they should operate at home, how they should wear their clothes, dress, and what they should do.
No matter what.
Yeah. If that's built on a foundation that isn't actually your core self, sometimes you have to go, right, I'm going to do it different. It's almost like wearing your clothes upside down, right? I'm going to see what it's like to wear my clothes upside down for a week or back to front. And then I'm going to decide how I want to reassemble myself.
I want to redo it. Exactly, guys.
Yeah.
So the whole point of the star is just you are the creator of your world. You are here to co-create this divine comedy, and you are going to be an active member of it, or you're going to be a sideline actor of your own starring role. And the universe is really trying to push you to being the star of your own play, of your own life. And because we deserve this, we deserve to stand up tall and say, I love the life I'm choosing. I love these experiences that I'm having. And all it's doing is narrowing it down. There's nothing wrong with to subscribe to the belief of I am going to learn everything I don't like. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like subscribing to the belief of everything you do like. That's pretty much our childhood to our mid-20s is discovering what we don't like. Because by our 30s as women, we're starting to say, well, I won't do that. I've already learned that, right? And then you begin to discover the things that you do like. So allow yourself to play in every sense of the way, and whatever, if it feels counterintuitive, do it anyway. See what counterintuitive feels like, right? Let's try that out. Maybe I don't need to be perfect. Maybe it's okay if I do this. Maybe if I choose to, whatever, research, I research to get rid of my conditionings. I research facts. I research truth. That is really what's helped me from being a massively conditioned human, because I'm now choosing my conditioning. I'm now choosing the things that I want to be conditioned by. And although I'm sure there's still very many unconscious things inside of me that I have, to learn over this journey, the reality is being able to choose my conditioning has come from me researching facts, from me researching truth, and knowing that it's not necessarily healthy for me to wash my hair every day or to even wash my skin. I have to have my own oils build up. Otherwise, I'm just washing skin that's going to end up flaky, dry, or whatever, because I have the type of skin I have, right? So I did my research to decondition myself. There's other ways of doing it. That's just the way that I found to be the most clear-cut way for me getting rid of conditioning that's happened from childhood.
You're describing something interesting as well, because all of us, in terms of our beliefs, values, and experiences growing up in whatever situation we grew up in with our families, and the messages that we received, creates a filter through which we perceive through. So they can be quite limiting, because that's sometimes when we're trying to expand and we can't, because we're still sat with those beliefs and values. So they limit our capacity to go and explore or grow, because we have certain ideas about that. So what you're saying is, when we start to deconstruct that or put that on the table and have a look at that belief and say, do we really believe that? And am I going to be like that? You don't have to make a decision straight away. First, you become aware of that, and you become aware of how that impacts you. But the moment you start to experiment, what it does is it opens up your peripheral vision almost. And every time you're talking about the star, it feels like on a human level, your whole energy field is expanding and your peripheral vision can expand. And what that means is you are now more receptive and available for some of the obscure things to come through that may never have come through.
Well, because she's naked.
Because you've got she's vulnerable, and she's there, and she's
And I think I don't know how many anime fans are going to be on here. My daughter's really into anime, which has brought me into some of the anime. Is actually beautiful for spirituality. It really is. It's kind of crazy. And they've got a girl named Sailor Moon, and in her purest form, Sailor Moon is nude. And she looks just like the star card. She's surrounded with light and stars and beauty. And it's just like in her highest form, being the star. You are completely stripped bare of your conditioning, of your choices that maybe you didn't love in the past. You are stripped bare of it so that you can now enter into this new phase of life, into this new phase of your journey, like a child. If you come into this world naked, right? Newborns to me are probably the most aware of everything. They just can't, they haven't grounded.
Senses are switched on. And also
Yeah.
the moment you put clothes on, you're forming an identity because your clothes say something about the persona that you've now put on.
Yeah. See, you know, see, she knows. I love me some Mel. No, I have to over explain it. But yeah, so with that being said, when you enter the star card, it really is all about faith and belief. And if you cannot believe in yourself, find ways to getting to that point. If you don't have faith in the anything like that's beyond you, that's okay too. People live very full lives as atheists. I just know the psychology of having faith and why having faith is important. It does not mean that you have to have faith in anything but yourself. And as long as you
hope.
Yeah, faith and hope. And those two things really do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So when the star card comes, if it comes upright, great work, guys. And if the star comes in a reverse form, just know that it's trying to tell you. It's not telling you you're negative or you're not doing something right. It's just telling you that you're just not seeing yourself through the rose-colored lenses that you deserve to put on yourself the way you do everybody else, and allow that to happen. Did you have anything more on the star card?
No, I just slipped into a moment there of it just reminded me when I was in Ibiza once, and I was watching the Flower Power Parade. And when you said the rose-colored glasses, you know, with the afro hair and the really wild and vibrant outfits, and it was the Flower Power movement. And I think there's something this year about bringing that element of the 60s wild free spirit back.
It really does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does. Like it's all about self and pushing through. And it's less about this. I've noticed that, how do I put this? The new age is transforming from releasing the ego, because we're starting to realize that the ego is literally you in this material form, and moving it into transcendence of your limitations. It's all about transcendence of self now, and not transcendence of the ego. And so, that is very hippie Woodstock flower power movement that, we so need in this world right now. So it'll be nice having that hippie vibe back, right? Because it's kind of a calmer, it's a soother, it's a middle ground, if you will.
It's fun, it's free, it's expansive, it's vibrant. And also what we're learning, especially when you've meditated for a while, your body releases chemicals that you don't have to pay for on the street, So this is the other aspect of working on yourself, is actually you can feel ecstatic, excited, joyous, all of those different feelings without moving from your armchair.
Yeah, and it's funny because as a person that went on a psychedelic journey, I fully profess my psychonaut, and I am a firm believer in the psychedelic journey. It really did help in some of the getting through things that I otherwise couldn't have. But on the other side of that, I don't need it anymore, right? Now, if I do take any psychedelics, it's because I want to, there's health benefits to it, like the studies that they're doing on, magic mushrooms. There's a lot of health benefits, long-term health benefits to it.
They're looking at the impacts on depression and that, aren't they?
On depression and anxiety. And so if I want to keep serotonin and dopamine levels up, I need to find what is it called? An antagonist? The ones that attach anyways. But they found out that psychedelics actually fit better inside of that than actual serotonin does. So, it's kind of crazy how that works. But as Mel said, I don't find the need to go explore like that anymore, because I'm already happy and it's satiated within, and I have joyous moments and childlike laughter that I could once only get through some form of mental stimulation on an outside resource. So and that's the outcome of the hard work and the steps that somebody takes on a journey, and everybody has a different way of experiencing that journey. But when you talk to people that have been on that journey, you'll start to see similar themes coming through that, crises, disconnection, lack of hope, lack of faith, all of those different elements, and then the struggles through all the family dynamics and the inner world and the experiences that have happened to you as a child. But the payoff and
I'm surprised sometimes that I can say this, actually, because we've both talked about the experiences we've had in the past with chronic fatigue, with illnesses, with low mood, all of those different things. But the payoff, it can be astounding. And when you are lining up with your innate strengths, skills, attributes, and you're lining up in a profession or in your family life, or you've eased out and unraveled some of the icky sticky stuff that goes on, the quality and depth of relationships and experiences that you can start to have sometimes are incomprehensible. And I think that's what sometimes stops people from even taking the first step, because there's doubts there. And what we're saying is, no, there's always a first step. Get your team around you, get your positive team around you, get any of those skills and activities and take that one step. Because if you're not in that star space, or if you've been there, because that's the other aspect with emotions, you know, feelings are transient, and we will go through an array of different experiences. And if we seek to only have the high, as in exhilaration and joy, then we're just chasing the same dragon that, you know, people on the street corners are doing. It's just a different kind of
drug. You know, you're just chasing a different kind of high.
And but you can maintain it more, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You know, and the beauty of what you just said about the unknown and not being sure of is tune in next week, because the moon card is our next major arcana. And it's all about, like, the whole point is, it's not telling you to get off the path. It's just saying, get comfortable with not knowing where that path leads.
Right.
And so before we close this up, wrap this up, I did want to give you your tarot spread. Okay, so this is going to be 6 questions. Okay, I'm going to say the baseline and then expand on it. So the first one is the wound. What is hurting? Second one is guidance. How can I support my healing? Number 3 is grounding. What makes me feel safe and secure? The fourth one is inspiration. Something that gives me hope. 5, a blessing. What in my life is a blessing? Because sometimes after the tower falls, the last thing we think about is all the blessings.
Yeah.
The sixth and finals, wish. And what are my aspirations? Now, I did want to make sure that you guys know about our Facebook page. It's Mel and Danielle. Along with, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are a growing community and would love to see this community grow. And last but not least, I did kind of a little bit of a teaser, and this is just not going to be all full in, but Mel and I are currently working on a workshop. And this workshop is all about breaking free and what it is that you need to do to break free and what happens once you've broken free. And it's very exciting for us, because one thing that we have noted throughout both of our journeys is we have a lot of information about the beginning and we have a lot of information about the end, but we don't have a lot of information about the steps while you're doing this journey. And so why not fill those spaces? Because those really were the big questions. And although we are here to create this journey for self, having a little information on the side could not hurt. So, but with that being said, Mel, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I've become the star that you know you are. You are deserving. It's not an easy journey, but it is a worthy journey.
And that's our wish for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Thank you, Danielle. Look forward to the next card.
Woo!